On this episode, we take the new 2021 Chevy Trailblazer into the mountains. Is this compact crossover up to the challenge? Find out right now on Driving Sports TV. The Trailblazer is the newest compact crossover from Chevrolet. The model we're testing today is the all-wheel drive Activ, with dark chrome trim and a number of options. Price as you see it here, $30,730 US, including delivery.
This has underbody protection. Yeah! Plus, because this is the all-wheel drive version, it also has 8 inches of ground clearance. So that's a win.
Under the hood is an Ecotec 1.3-liter turbo inline 3-cylinder engine. This is good for up to 155 horsepower and 174 pound-feet of torque. It's connected to a 9-speed automatic transmission. EPA rates this setup at up to 26 miles to the gallon in town and 30 on the highway.
I have to address these tires. This is a Hankook Dynapro AT2, and it looks like an all-terrain. We've seen this before, like on the Honda Ridgeline, where they put kind of an aggressive pattern on the side of the tire. However, the actual tread is an all-season radial, so don't let that confuse you. So this looks like a recovery hook just at first glance, but clearly it is just a piece of plastic. The actual recovery is up here. There's an eyelet that goes in and screws into position. So keep that in mind. In the back, we have more of that blacked out chrome, and it looks really good back here. Open up the trunk. You notice it is not powered. We actually have a fair amount of space considering this is a very small vehicle. And under the false floor is a space saver spare. And it is kind of nice. You can configure this to stay up if you're doing a repair, and then push it back down.
With all the seats down, you're looking at up to 54.4 cubic feet of total capacity.
Okay, second row. This seat is where I would be sitting in it, so yeah, tons of legroom. For a full-size adult. I'm 6'1", and my knees fit just fine. I have lots of headroom. I get an armrest with cup holders, and down here I have both USB as well as USB-C and an AC socket. Didn't expect to see that back here. Nice. Overall, the space is good. However, the plastic, definitely on the cheap side. Now let's see what we have here. Seats are pretty comfortable. I get power adjustments on the driver's side. Passenger just has manual adjustments. I also get seat warmers with 3 stages. Let's power it up. The gauge cluster is attractive. It is traditional with a tach on the left, speedo on the right, and a multi-function display in the middle. And then above it, there's a string of illumination indicators that will tell me what's up with my safety systems. I really like how they combine a variety of different materials. We have fabric here, hard plastic here, copper here. It's overall a good effect. However, when you do look closely, it's pretty inconsistent. This plastic's really cheap. This one looks nice. I do like the metal surround down here on the transmission selector. That is really high quality and good looking. And then that same metal is carried up here. The wheel is wrapped. I think that's leather. It feels like leather. Is that synthetic? It's probably synthetic. You know, I can't even tell anymore. No, but overall, this is really nice. However, this is a very small car with a pretty high price. So you would kind of expect that. Now, one of the most unusual things about this vehicle is the fact that it is front-wheel drive 99% of the time. It only goes into all-wheel drive when you hit a button down there, at which point it engages the middle clutch and puts power to the back. And it's never really over 50% back there. It is really a assist system, not a performance-based all-wheel drive setup. Speaking of performance, there's a little flag button I can hit here, which turns on a green flag up here. The gear selector is traditional, and there's something to be said for tradition. We've got a PRND plus a low, and then we have a power handbrake right here. And I do like that we have 2 cup holders. I can fit my phone there, I can put my phone here, and there's also wireless charging up front here. I do actually like the Chevrolet head unit. It's not the best looking interface, but the functionality is here. Of course, we also have XM radio, and it's really easy to switch between the different channels or go to presets. There is navigation, but you have to use OnStar, and then it'll send you the information to the car. It's not an actual usable nav. If you want navigation, this is really built around mobile devices, Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. And then if you're in CarPlay, I mean, it's as simple as CarPlay. Navigate to the nearest Cafe Ladro.
The nearest one I found is Cafe Ladro on Urban Plaza in Kirkland.
As an added benefit, this also has wireless CarPlay. Basically, I just bop back and forth between the menus, answer all the questions, and boom, CarPlay. That is as easy as it should be. And then once it's up, it's not a huge display, but it's certainly functional. It's responsive to my touch. The colors are a bit off. The reds are pinks and the greens are a light green. It's a little washed out, which is indicative of a lower cost display. I can use climate up here, but it's also down here. Even at this price point, it's still single zone climate control. I would kind of expect dual zone at this price point, but that's okay. If you wanted to plug in a device, there is USB-C, traditional USB, and a 12 volt. Now, it was interesting most recently when I drove the Volkswagen ID4, it had no 12 volt sockets anywhere. I didn't realize that that was maybe something that was coming. So I'm happy to see a 12 volt right here. In terms of safety, this does have a lot of the basics. We get collision mitigation. We don't seem to have lane detect, but we do have adaptive cruise control, and I'm really happy to see that here. For reverse, we do have a camera with indicators, and we even get the Chevy exclusive teen driver system, which allows me to reconfigure this vehicle so that teens don't have as many options as I do. The Activ is kind of the off-road trim. This is designed for young people who want to go out, have some fun. So what we're going to do today is take this out and have some fun. And yeah, it's called a Trailblazer. I'm not going to take that literally, but we are going to do our standard off-road tests, and I really want to see how this all-wheel drive system responds when pushed to the limit. But first, let's do a slip test to see what the difference is between front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive engaged. Does this actually put a lot of power to the back? Let's find out.
With this side view slowed down by 25%, you can see in front-wheel drive mode, the vehicle is truly front-wheel drive only, as it produces plenty of front-wheel spin on the slippery gravel. Switching to all-wheel drive, and power is pushed to the back, making for a much more confident start. Just for fun, let's see if we can get any additional wheel spin with traction control turned off.
Now that we did the all-wheel drive test, it's time to jump on the freeway as we go into the mountains. Along the way, we'll test the adaptive cruise control and also just see, what is this thing like to drive on pavement? And then a little bit later, we'll push it to its limit on our off-road course. And floor it. Yeah, that little 3-cylinder turbo, yeah, it doesn't sound good at all. It sounds like it's really trying hard. And after all that effort, it's only putting out 155 horsepower. Now, it is interesting on this vehicle, I can selectively pick between all-wheel drive and front-wheel drive. Of course, on the freeway, I want to put it in two-wheel drive for the best mileage. And this does have adaptive cruise control, which is good for cruising on the freeway. I'm going to go ahead and set it, turn it on, set. I can adjust my gap by toggling, and there we go. Now, this does have lane detection. However, it does not have lane centering. This is kind of like an older system. So if I let go, it will tap me in, but then it'll overshoot as we go into the other lane. So not exactly modern stuff going on here. Still, it is good for reducing fatigue on long trips, and I always really like the fact that it has adaptive cruise control, so you can pace the vehicle in front of you. If I set it to 75 and I'm in a 70 zone and the car in front of me is doing 70, this vehicle will do 70 as well. And I find that the adaptive cruise control is pretty smooth and it works quite well. Some vehicles with older systems like this one can be a little bit rougher in the transitions between speeds. This one is very smooth. It's very refined for the features that it does have. This is a particularly loud stretch of freeway, and even some luxury cars sound pretty bad here, but this one, it's really bad. I have to feel like I'm yelling to talk over the road noise. This competes in the compact class. This is a very small crossover. I would say it's comparable to the Subaru Crosstrek, probably the Hyundai Tucson, maybe the Kona, depending on which kind of way you're going there. There's all sorts of different trims available for this. Everything from the Sporty RS to the more off-road ready Activ, which is what we're driving today. And driving, it's not too bad. It's kind of plucky. It feels like a front-wheel drive vehicle when it's in two-wheel drive mode, because obviously it is. And that is kind of unusual, the fact that they give you selective front wheel or all-wheel drive. Most vehicles, like specifically even the Ford Bronco Sport, it is so smart in the way that it redistributes power. You don't have to think about it. And it's kind of funny that they would give us the ability to hit a button, which, yeah, puts us more in command, but also makes us have to do more work. So right now we're in two-wheel drive mode, and when I floor it, yeah, there's a lot of torque steer, which is kind of funny because it only has 155 horsepower. That's not a ton. That's pretty bad. Now this does have 9 speeds. How do they fit 9 speeds into a vehicle this small? But they do. The gear selection is pretty smooth on this. It seems to pick the right gear almost all the time. The transitions are smooth. This doesn't really feel sporty, so you don't really want to push it, which means that you're not really going to push the transmission in the first place because it just doesn't lend itself to that. I mean, this is either a commuter or just a fun little, pop about crossover. It's nothing fancy. We're going to do a 0 to 60, and we're going to do it 2 ways. First, we're going to do it in front wheel drive, and then we'll do it in all wheel drive. 3, 2, 1, go. Floor down. Ooh, a little slow to get that motor moving, and then it picks up. And 40, 50, and 60. We're looking at 9.09 seconds. That is, that's pretty brutal. I'd hate to see what the non-turbo version of this does. I'm gonna do that 0 to 60 again, and this time I'm gonna put it into all-wheel drive mode and see how it's different when it has more power going to the back. Stop completely, drive, start stop is off. 3, 2, 1, go. Much quicker so far, actually. And 60, 9.32 seconds. It's even worse. Probably due to parasitic loss of putting that power to the back. Oh well, let's see how it is off-road on the trails, because it's a Trailblazer, right? Yeah. Okay, moving on. Once on the gravel, granted, yes, this is a clutch-based all-wheel drive system, and it will only put reasonably up to 50% of power to the back as necessary, and it is a variable amount. However, when you do have all-wheel drive on, it always puts something back there. So when you put on these somewhat all-terrain tires and underbody armor, you think that this thing might be up for a little adventure, but oof, the fact is, it's not. To be completely honest, this suspension, it's pretty brutal. it doesn't absorb anything. I feel like I'm getting jostled all over the place. But let's go ahead and tackle our first obstacle. Now, this has loose rocks on the right and solid rocks on the left. They're kind of sharp and they're dry right now, so we should have okay traction. And let's see how this does. Come on, can you do it? Oh, it's using, ooh, those are some bad sounds. Oh, I'm in two-wheel drive mode. Let's go ahead and switch it back into all-wheel drive and see if this improves things. Oof. Oh man, the noises. Okay, we made it over that with a little drama. This upper section's definitely going to be interesting. In case you're wondering why I don't want to take this on an overland adventure, because this suspension would kill me after 5 hours on the trail with this. No, that's not something I want to do. Okay, let's see how this does on the rock trail. In terms of setup, we don't have a lot to do here. All-wheel drive is obviously enabled, and that's it. Put it in drive, brake off, and away we go. So this does have 8 inches of ground clearance, which is good. And it has underbody protection under the motor, which is even better. That is, if we can get over these rocks with this suspension. Now it looks like somebody has been through here rather aggressively and has churned up some big boulders since last time I was here, so that's always fun. Okay, now right here I'm going to take traction off this wheel and this wheel, and we'll see how this system responds. Now, obviously, if you're doing this in the real world, you would maintain momentum through. However, right now, we're doing a demonstration to show how the system responds when it's losing grip on 2 wheels. How does that power go back into the system, if at all? Okay, traction is removed off these. I'm going to now throttle in and see what it does. Okay, I'm tilting. Now, it will be interesting to see on the outside if power is getting shifted at all. We were able to get through it with a little wheel spin. Okay, it smells like tire. Hankook specifically. I'm all for a challenge, but this is taller than 8 inches. So this is gonna have to move. Okay, now we're gonna continue up the course and see if we hit anything. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. And yes, it made it. It wasn't smooth, it wasn't elegant, but it did get up the climb. And that's kind of the point, right? Okay, so would I recommend this for these kind of trails? Absolutely not. After the first 20 minutes, you'll be done. The suspension just isn't good enough at doing what it needs to do. It doesn't create an enjoyable off-road experience. It has the look, kind of off-roader where it can do some basic stuff. But at the end of the day, are you really going to use it for that? No, you're not. But it is kind of nice to know that if you need to get over some small complicated stuff, the Trailblazer is capable. It's just not fun. Now, in terms of going down the hill, we don't have any hill descent control. We got nothing here. So I'm just going to have to ride the brake all the way down and hope I don't punch my nose into a rock. For Driving Sports TV, I'm Ryan Douthit. This has been my look at the 2021 Chevy Trailblazer. It is a small crossover, but is it the right crossover for you? I would say it would have to be pretty heavily discounted for me to consider it. At this price point, I would much rather have a fully loaded Subaru Crosstrek or Hyundai Tucson. What would you pick? Post a comment below. Make sure to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and we'll see you again right here next week. I'm so done with this. Oh, my brain.